Hello and welcome to
Hey, we like your pod.
And we're going to tell you why. Hi, it's Dawn here, as always, joined by my trusted partner, Matt Pickett. And our very special guest tonight is Matub.
Woohoo!
Welcome, Matub. It's good to see you. How was your week? Tell us all about your week and your mountains.
It's good to be here. So on Sunday, wife and I packed up the kids, and I work remotely, so I was working all week. But we went off to Salida and actually stayed at this place called the Amigo Motor Lodge that has like retrofitted Airstreams.
Oh wow!
As motel rooms.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
and it was fun. They had a really good AC unit in there. It was over 100 in Salida this week. It was pretty rough. But yeah, so we went between Salida and Buena Vista. Went to the Monarch Pass, which is where the Continental Divide is. Went on some small hikes. My kids are 2 and 5, so they can't really handle a whole bunch of mileage. But yeah, had a good chill week, and then just got back yesterday.
Nice. So up in the mountains, like, what was the most beautiful thing you saw?
I mean, it's the drive back when you're leaving Salida and you're following the Arkansas River, and you are just like deep in this valley, and watching the mountains go from like your standard Colorado mountain to then they're like layered sandstone, and then it's just like rock formations, and I tell people that when you move to Colorado, you actually never get truly desensitized to like seeing the mountains in the background.
Right.
It's the same way that I used to live on the shore of Lake Michigan, and you never really got used to Lake Michigan being right there.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
I lived in Chicago for 6 years, and that's how I always felt. Like driving on Lakeshore Drive it always felt special. Even on like the worst days, I was like, this is still cool. And it's the main thing I miss about living in Chicago is that drive and just the lake being there. So I hear that, man. That resonates with me.
I miss Molly's cupcakes.
Yeah, dude.
I love Lakeshore Drive. Did you take the tram ride? Have you taken the kids on the tram ride?
So we did. We took kind of a tram. So there's like a ski lift thing that takes you up to the top of Monarch Pass.
Okay.
So there's a tram that takes you to the top of Pikes Peak, which is in the city that I live in. But it's the train was made in like Sweden, and so it's like you have not American-sized proportions in your seats,
and you had to sell books. It became flat packed. So
yeah, I don't know if you guys have ever been to the Big House, University of Michigan's stadium, but you have a number to sit on, and the smaller your number, if it's single digit or double digit, that's actually how big. Yeah, that's what it's like. That's what it's like riding the Cog Railway.
That's funny. I love it.
Yeah, so if you ever go to Ann Arbor, get a seat in the hundreds.
Yeah, thousands if you're lucky, 10,000s maybe. That'd be the way to go. Dawn, how was your week? How are you doing?
Oh, it's been a week. It's been a lot. Let's see. What's the good news? Tosh had her follow up with her specialist. I'm broke. Okay, I'm just this cat. It's like the $1 million cat. I don't even want to tell you how much it costs. Just anyway, but she's a fantastic doctor. Spent like an hour and 45 minutes with us. No joke, nonstop. But so she looks really good. We did some blood work. I'll get the results later this week, which we're expecting to be normal, but just out of precaution because of the most recent ingestion of basically glass. And if she gets a good bill of health, then I think I'm going to forego any more on diagnostics because her GI situation is improving. So
you're good.
It was improving, and then she ate the glass. I'm calling it for for lack of, just to make it simple. And then wasn't her fault. But anyway, so I think we're good. So that was really good news.
Nice.
I helped save a kitten.
Okay.
There was a kitten on my neighbor's roof, and I was trying to help. There were two, actually. She got one, and the Humane Society came out with their officer, and they couldn't get the second one, so they just took the sibling away. And so we were devastated for this little kitten. Oh. And I thought for sure the kitten was down, went down, because the brother was like screaming in front of my apartment for an hour in a cage. Well, anyway, like 4 days later, my neighbor got contacted by her neighbor, and she was at a doctor's appointment, and she's like, texted me, Dawn, the kitten's back, like it's on the roof on the other side, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, I got the fire department out. They came, they got the kitten down. It was not easy, but we got the kitten down, and so now he will be safe. And he's only like 12 weeks old, and so we're guessing it hadn't eaten or drank that entire 4 days, and was up on a roof.
I wouldn't survive that. Yeah.
No.
When you said you rescued a kitten, I was imagining you in a firefighter's outfit on a ladder. So the fact that the fighters got involved, that was like, oh, this is like real, like in the cartoons from the 50s, actual firefighters up in the ladders. So I love that.
That's they were all really cute, and there was like 5 of them, and it was just like, I tried to live stream it, but I was helping them. But I'll tell you something. When she called me the first time and said there were 2 kittens up there, I said, I'll be right over with a ladder. Like, this is what I do. Like, I don't
grab your ladder.
It's a family trait. It's a family trait. Like, if you want something done, you ask a Thomas to do it, because we just do it. We're not going to talk about it. And she's all fretting. And then I said, well, call the fire department. And she didn't. So I was mad at my neighbor. I was really mad at her, but you know what I'm saying? It's like a fire department. And so they were it took them probably 15 minutes to get there. And I was out there pacing. And I was like, maybe they got a fire. Maybe they're not going to come. And so I went over, and they're painting our buildings, our whole complex. So I went over to the painter, and I was like, can I borrow a ladder? He said, well, ma'am, it's 40 feet. And I said, perfect. And he's like, okay. And then so he was just getting the ladder for me, because I was like going to get that kitten. I was done with it. Like 4 days, I really didn't want to even know. But he was really healthy, the kitten. Anyway, he was getting the ladder, and the fire department pulled up and stuff. And I was just like jumping up and down. It was so exciting. So that was the big news. That was the big news. Got my tickets for Barbieheimer this coming weekend. Just wanted to let the first weekend pass. I don't want to be around any crowds. I'll probably wear a mask the whole time. But anyone? So Matub and Matt, have you any interest in seeing those films?
I mean, yeah. I need to find the time to do it.
Yeah, seriously. When you got kids, man, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the Grindhouse double feature, man. Like, that's the juxtaposition of the two has got to be crazy.
I know. And you know what? I have a movie friend, like the friend that I see movies with. And we didn't get to see our movies. We usually go on Christmas. It's Jews go to Christmas. Jews go to movies day. I'm not Jewish, but anyway, I don't celebrate Christmas either. So I missed this year, and I'm like, we need to do a double feature. And then this came up before Barbieheimer was a thing. I had already planned with her. I'm like, we need to see Barbie and Oppenheimer.
Wait, Dawn. So you had noticed this connection like before it was a thing that we were talking about, like in the zeitgeist right now? Like, you're like, hey, these are things. Let's see them both in the same day.
Yes.
Dawn.
I'm a trendsetter.
Once again, you're a trendsetter. This is amazing.
I'm always. Because then my sister's like, oh, you're going to do Barbieheimer. And I'm like, oh, that's so cute. And then I went on Twitter, and I'm like, oh, my God, it's a thing again. I know. My friend was like, oh, you're doing the trend. And I'm like, no, I didn't know anything about it.
You started the trend.
Yeah, stuff like that is why I tweet every little thought that falls out of my skull. For the off chance that I accidentally did something great. And then I at least have written proof that I did it first.
Yeah. What about your week, Maddie? How you doing?
Yeah. So I had my sister and her family visited over the weekend, and they were here like when I got home from work, and they left when I left for work on Monday morning. So it was like
Oh.
wall to wall visit. But it was awesome. Good chance to spend a bunch of time with. Well, I mean, I love my sister so much, and I just miss her. She lives up near Chicago still, and it's one of those things where like we're both busy with our families, so we don't talk as much as we should. But when we hang out, together, it's just like we're teenagers again, bumming around the house on a Friday night, making fun of each other and stuff like that. So that was glorious, and her kids are amazing. It's like spending some time with them was really cool. So it was a lot, but it was really great. So the one thing though is that we're all kind of like getting like just exhausted from the weekend. It's Sunday night, they're looking like starting to get things packed up, and everyone's just like, let's just go to bed. And then the littlest one, who's the same age as my littlest kid, just erupted dinner all over everything, and it was so gross. Because Matub, cleaning up kids' puke is just like, it's one of the worst things that you have to do as a parent,
But I will say that like there's one time I had to clean up after one of my dogs. That to this day is the worst thing I've ever had to do. And so honestly, 5 years of cleaning up kid messes has not, the one time I had to clean this one specific mess up from my dog doesn't touch it. So I'm good.
That's amazing.
It's one of those things that's like, I've been hardened.
Part of you has died inside. So
but also I'm not going to say that it's pleasant. Like I agree. It's awful.
No. Yeah.
So I mean, that one thing aside, it was a lovely visit, and just otherwise making my way through the last part of the summer orientation season that I think I've talked about like every week. Exciting topic, I know, but this pretty much winding down, so my calendar's opening up a bit, and like having more time to like informal conversations in the hallway, which is always nice, like getting coffee with my colleagues. So things are good. Things are real good.
Love it. I love it. Well, let's get to know Matub a little bit better.
I'm an open book.
Yes, we're opening the book. So for those of you who don't know Matub, his name is Matt, but we've agreed he goes by Matub. Call me Matub, he says. So we're calling him Matub tonight, especially so we don't get the two Matts mixed up, because gosh knows I get mixed up very easily.
I work with another Matt, and he outranks me in the company. And so he's Matt, and then I go by my last name, which his last name is Green. So like, why can't he go by his last name? It's one syllable,
right? It's so much easier.
But no, so.
Well, that actually leads us really nicely into the thing I really wanted to ask, and I'm sorry to kind of like grab the reins here, Don, when you're trying to get things rolling. Matub, what is this word? What does it mean? Where does it come from? I've been so curious about this for as long as I've known you on Twitter.
They call you Matub, but they don't call you Matub at work.
Yeah, it's funny they don't. Matub's been my, I guess pen name you'd say since the early days of social media. I want to say like 2007. It's a nickname from high school.
Okay.
So I played lacrosse, and on the lacrosse team there were 3 other Matts, so 4 of us total, and we all went by our last names. And my last name is kind of hard for people. It's Croatian. I think there's like 60 of us in the whole country, so it's not exactly super common. So my last name is Matanic. And you guys ever see Rookie of the Year?
Yes.
The kid breaks his arm and then can throw 100 miles an hour and plays for the Cubs. Well, the character's name is Henry Rowan Gardner. And a running gag in the whole movie is his manager constantly messes up his last name, like calls him Rosenbagger and Rulengerder and Runamucker, and so people started doing that for me, and they started calling me like weird variations on my last name, and the most popular one was Matubalovich.
Oh God, I love that.
That's fantastic.
So by my sophomore year, Matubalovich got shortened to Matub. Get stuck. Day 2 of college, I went to a party, ran into someone I knew from high school who called me Matub in front of one of the brothers of the house. From then on, all of campus called me Matub. Like, I had to put it as my middle name. Matub. That's good.
Matt Matub. That's Pappy. Pappy brings the jokes.
So like I had to put it as my middle, because this is back in the days of Facebook when you couldn't like change your name to like whatever you wanted it to be. So I had to set my middle name as Matub. so people could find me. I don't have a chaser. I'm drinking neat. This is out of a Glencairn. Hi, Aaron.
Aaron's in the house. Hello, Aaron. Hello, Pappy.
What's funny was, so I originally came through the ranks of being a website commenter, specifically Acme Packing Companies, where I spent my time. And anytime I would make a pun, people would yell, or all caps, "Get out, Matub!" Like, and then there would often be pictures of bathtubs. So Pappy's on track there. It's good.
Yeah.
Gets it.
Always. I love it. Okay, so I have a friend who's Croatian. I'm trying to remember if she's back there now, I believe, in Croatia. She goes almost every year. Her dad is still there. Her mom came here and then kind of got stuck here because of COVID. So she ended up living, with her mom ended up living with her and her family. And then her mom was battling cancer, unfortunately. So they're bringing her back and having their ceremony there and everything. But she shows me pictures from Croatia that are just so stunning. It makes me want to go there. So beautiful. Have you been?
I have not. It is, people would say, some of the best beaches in the world, because most of Croatia is a beach, which is actually kind of funny. There's a running meme where, like, if you ever see Bosnia is kind of shaped like a fist. And Croatia cups underneath it. And there's a point where Croatia is only about 15 miles wide. And so Bosnia's like, "Hey man, can I go swimming?" And Croatia's like, "No." Like,
that's cute. I love it. Yeah, that's a beautiful area. I mean, Bosnia too. Yeah, cool. Okay. Well, I was going to ask you what your name was, but that's great.
Yeah, so that's where Matub comes from. And it's just, and then in the early days of podcasting, like I started podcasting in 2009, I think.
Oh, wow.
I was like, yeah. And it's where my natural microphone presence comes from. It's very well practiced. And back then everybody had a catchphrase. It's like, if you wanted to be a YouTuber, because I really wanted to work for Machinima at the time. That was like the big YouTube channel where you could play Call of Duty and get paid to do it. And everybody had a catchphrase. And so my catchphrase was, "My name is Matt, you can call me Matub." And it's been that way ever since.
Still has been.
Stuck with it. All right.
I'm really fascinated by that because, post COVID, and like during COVID, that's when so many podcasts like formed, like, I don't know, like mushrooms forming in a damp area, I guess. But of course, that's so it dawned on me. It was easy because, like, oh, we're using Zoom. We know how this stuff works. So we can just, like, hit on record and stuff. And there you go. There's a podcast. So before all that, I've wondered, like, how did people do that? How did people think to do that? What would, like, make a person say, let's do this thing that's not something everyone's doing now? Yeah, just what was that like starting off, I guess, like in 2009?
So back then, the only podcast aggregate was iTunes. Like and I'm pretty sure that's where the etymology of podcast comes from, because it was in iTunes and it would download to your iPod automatically.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And one of my podcasts actually had a pretty big subscriber base. But the thing about iTunes podcasts back then is you could have a pretty stupid big subscriber base and no guaranteed listens. In fact, so I podcasted with a Canadian guy named Dave McCauley. We did gaming news, and we got a sponsorship from Future Shop, which at the time, I don't know if it still is, but it was like the Best Buy of Canada. And based on our subscriber count, which at the time I think we had, like, it was over 100,000 like subscribers, downloaders, whatever. And we had like less than 2,000 entries into a contest where you could win like TVs and stuff. Future Shop was so mad. But that was podcasting back in the days. You could have just like, you guys remember the era of Facebook video when people would get hundreds of millions of views on Facebook, but then it turns out that wasn't real. That's kind of what podcast subscribers were back in 2009.
Right.
They subbed, but they didn't listen.
Right.
And you never stopped.
Yeah, never stopped. And that was Skype back then. We all used Skype.
Yeah, of course.
But also back then, live streaming was done on Justin.tv, which eventually Justin.tv. That's what eventually became Twitch, but back then it was Justin TV.
Wow. Cool.
I have learned things tonight, and we've barely even started the podcast. This is amazing.
We now need.
I like to say that I know a little bit about a lot.
So Don, we're gonna read Matub's tweet, all right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so sorry, I was chatting in the chat there. Sorry, I gotta get to
No worries.
multitasking. I'm listening. Okay, so I'm sure most of our audience knows our guest Matub, but for the few who don't, let's just start out as we always do with your Twitter, Matub. So it says, my name's Matt, but you can call me Matub, which we've kind of covered at Call Me Matub. Packers, making stuff, whiskey, lifting, crude humor, and we talked about this being a family show, of course. Videos, vids, and words for Acme Packing Company, which we love at Acme Packing Co. I never liked tweets. Have you never liked one of my tweets? That annoys me. Okay,
I've never liked any tweets. Look at my Twitter likes.
Yeah,
that's
true.
Funny. I
Only
love it.
ever by accident. One time I
will. There are times where I'll be scrolling on my phone and I'll accidentally like a tweet. And actually, I have people who follow my likes. Like they'll occasionally check and they'll send me a DM. They'll be like, "Hey man, like you liked an ad like 3 days ago."
I've done that accidentally too. Okay.
Because this was back in the days of early Twitter when they were favorites instead of likes. They were like the stars.
Oh.
And I was like, I don't want to make like a list of favorite tweets. This is dumb.
Mm-hmm.
And so then even when it became likes, I was still like, this is just favorites with a heart instead. I'm not doing that. And so yeah, that's just, I started Twitter in 2011, something like that. So
way back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes I wish it wasn't a heart. I will say, I'd rather it was just like a thumbs up.
So it was a star. Back then.
It was a star, right? I forgot about that. Oh my God.
It's kind of funny, like getting to know different people's like tolerance for hitting the like on things. Like, obviously, you're on one side of the continuum of Matub, and the other end you've got like Monty Moore. He likes everything, and I love that. Everything I post, he's like. I'm like, yes. Monty saw it and he hit the like. I love that. So
I've gotten to that point where I just hit like if I saw it, unless it's something you really don't, you know.
And I'm very generous with my likes.
On Instagram, if I see it, I like it. In my Instagram DMs, I like my correspondence, so then people know that I have seen. Or if someone sends me a reel or a meme, I specifically react to it. Like I use an emoji that relates to what they were saying to say like, I saw what you sent me. I have ingested it. Here is my response. You matter to me. Thank you for sharing your memes.
We do that in the Teams messaging with my colleagues at work because they recently made it so you can put any emoji for it, and so it's often like a race to find like the most creative thing to go with it. But it's like that. It's we're all acknowledging we saw the thing, we got it, and like move on to the next topic kind of a thing. So yeah, all about that.
Love it. All right, so going forward, I never liked tweets, and I'm not wearing pants in my profile picture.
Yep, and the full picture is out there. If you search for if you search for hashtag meatwagon, the full picture is out there.
All right,
do it from your work computers, folks.
719 via 269 via 906 via 810. We're going to touch on that later. And then I want to just get through the Twitter because, man, there's a lot here. Okay, this is great. It's all good. It's all
really good. Yeah, very good.
Linktree / Call Me Matub. And then so you've got a YouTube channel, Acme Packing Company. And then we're going to talk about Pack to the Future, too, briefly. So our first and most important question is, are you wearing pants now?
Currently wearing sweat shorts.
Okay.
But actually, as you see me is how I worked today. So I'm technically in my business casual.
What does your t-shirt say?
Trinity Brewing Company. It's a brewery right down the road from me that was purchased by a Wisconsin expat.
Okay.
His name is Matt, actually. And so Trinity was... Like when I first moved to Colorado, Trinity was like this place that only made weird beers. They did sours and saisons almost exclusively. Matt bought it, and expanded the seating, turned it into a Packers Everywhere bar. So it's registered on Packers Everywhere.
That's why I've heard of it.
Yep, it's a great game day place. Also, shout outs to Matt. He has the breweries around here at Mug Clubs, and Matub's Meat Wagon, the food truck.
We're reading the comments.
Matt was like, so he has 2 locations, and the Mug Club only had openings on the second location. And I was like, hey Matt, like if I do the Mug Club at Forge, I get a spot at Mothership too, right? And he goes, do you want your mug at Mothership? I know you live right down the road. I was like, yeah, sure. He goes, we're out of mugs, but I got you. Just show up tomorrow. I was like, all right, cool. So there's all these beautiful handmade ceramic mugs that say like Trinity Brewing Company on the bottom, and then one screaming yellow Packers mug. And my wife was like, I was so excited to get a pretty mug. Come on. Sorry. So this Trinity Brewing shirt has it's like brewed at 5,700 feet, something, and then on the back it says Bart, Brett, Aaron, the real Trinity, or something other Trinity quarterbacks. But yeah, it was Trinity before Matt ever bought it.
Now, what's better than like being known, being a regular at a place where you come in, like they know your order, they know stuff about you. Like that's one of my favorite things. I feel like knowing, like, say for example, the regular baristas at the Starbucks in my I want to keep trying to say gas station. It's not a gas station, you guys. It's a place where you buy groceries. Supermarket. Whoa. Sorry, I'm having a stroke apparently. So no, the Starbucks at my supermarket, it's always, Ivana or Bianca or Danye, and like they know my order. We talk about like what's been going on this week, and like it just makes me so happy. It's so good.
I became a regular at my local liquor store, which I don't but I'm a whiskey hound. I go hunting for allocated bottles. Ooh. And you have to make relationships with your local owners. And so I'm not in there like buying, a handle of Jim Beam every other day or something like that. Right. But like they'll be like, hey Matt, like, oh, you like X, you should try Y. Like, and so it's not necessarily like, hey, we have this bottle that we know you're gonna want. It's, you should try this. Or, so yeah, but I'm not a coffee drinker. I'm a energy drink person. So
yeah, energy drink and then whiskey to wind down.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like I don't drink often. I'll usually have like 1 or 2 little Glencairns a week, but
right,
it's podcast season, man.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
It's quality over quantity is what it is.
That's right. Yeah, I'm not a big drinker either, even though I'm from Wisconsin. I think you're supposed to be born like a Packers fan and a big drinker, and I guess like that just didn't work for me. It doesn't agree with me.
I always tell people I'm not a big drinker because I'm only 5'9".
Yeah, well, I'm smaller than that, I guess. I get really sick really easily. So, okay, so let's talk about your connection to cheese. I want to hear about your connection to cheese. You have a
great segue.
Cheese is my business, and business is good.
There you go.
So I'm the engineering manager for a dairy company that used to exclusively make ingredients. Like if you ever had Fairlife or seen Fairlife, the ultra filtered milk, my company used to just make ultra filtered milk. Essentially, you break it down into its individual components, and you can get a skim milk that is essentially a protein shake, but it's just milk. But we moved into dairy last May, or moved into cheese last May. And yeah, now we make commodity amounts of cheddar and sell to very large companies. Fun fact, places like Sargento don't make their own cheese in the quantities that they need. They make a small percentage of their own cheese. People like me make their cheese and they buy it from us.
Wow. Outsourced cheese.
Yeah. Well, have you guys ever seen go ahead.
Wait. I'm so sorry.
No, go ahead.
I got to keep up with this. Let's go back to that ultra filtered milk thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have never heard of that. And you're saying it's like a protein shake, so you're pulling off the whey, or what is happening there?
you're running it through a membrane system. Oh, well, I don't know if you heard one of my children just woke
No.
up angrily. Um, so you run it through a membrane system and you break it down into individual components and you end up with a concentration of solids. So you're essentially pulling water out every single time you run it through these membranes.
Oh.
And you get it into a concentrated state, and you can, depending on the size of the membranes and the pressure, you can get a certain type of protein concentration. And so that's kind of that's why there's not a lot of fat in Fairlife, and there's a lot of there's almost extra protein compared to even skim milk. And so yeah, like milk is broken down into cream, protein, and then your remaining solids. Solids is like the magical catch-all term.
Okay.
And so when you make, let's say you make concentrated skim, it has a lot of protein and a lot of solids. And then when you make cheese, it's incredibly advantageous to do what's called fortifying the milk, where you start with raw milk and then you add cream and this ultra filtered skim to get your perfect amount of solids and your perfect protein to fat ratio. So your cheese will yield better. So if you were to make cheese out of just like regular milk from the two main cows that you're going to run into are Holstein and Jersey. Holstein make a ton of milk with a low fat content. Jerseys make less milk with a very high fat content. So if you have a Holstein milk and you're making cheese like straight from Holstein milk, it's going to yield at like 10%. So 10 pounds of milk per 1 pound of cheese. But if you fortify it, it'll yield between 15 and 17% just by messing with ratios. And so we used our previous ingredients business to essentially feed our own dairy, our own cheese production. And so now we make 40-pound blocks of cheddar and sell it to companies that are a lot bigger than us, and they pay us stupid amounts of money for it.
Okay, and so you're not selling to the grocery store, you're selling to the labels, the cheese labels.
We sell the people who sell the grocery stores.
Yeah.
Because they are going to take the blocks, they're going to shred it, they're going to mix it with maybe stuff that's undergrade, maybe whatever. Like, okay, so have you guys ever seen Trading Places with Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy? So that movie is very related to my industry. Do you guys remember? Do you guys remember the central point of the whole movie? The thing that it surrounds.
I remember nothing.
I saw it when I was a kid, so I'm trying to remember.
Right.
So
I don't remember anything.
Orange juice futures. That's the whole.
Oh. Right.
So they're trading orange juice futures on, and it looks like a stock floor. Like there's a bunch of people yelling. So that is something called the CME, the Commodity Mercantile Exchange.
Yep.
And you can trade orange juice, you can trade pork, you can trade gold, you can trade cheese. There is a commodity cheddar. It's a standard recipe that everybody has and makes and knows, and you trade cheese either in block or barrel. Is what they call it. Blocks are 40 pounds and barrels are 640 pounds. And that's like, cheese is a commodity, just like anything else. Right. The amount of cheese that Americans eat is crazy.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
This has blown my mind here, man.
Okay.
This is all kinds of stuff.
What's funny is I'm like meme lord on Twitter, and it turns out when you get me talking, I'm actually like, I get serious.
We love to do that. Okay, so but do you make cheese heads?
No, we do not make cheese heads. Which, did you guys know the Packers bought the Cheesehead Company?
Yeah, they announced that this week and like the shareholders meeting, right?
Yeah. So the Cheesehead Company is now owned by the Green Bay Packers, which is, I don't know, it feels like insider trading.
Like a monopoly has formed. Like
yeah. It's like when
it's
like in the 90s when Microsoft released Internet Explorer and everyone's like, hang on now, like you can't do everything.
Yeah. Oh my God, those were the days, right? No, I did not see that news. That's pretty funny. I don't have a cheese head, but I do know friends who do. And I was never, like, the first time I saw my friend, I can't remember if she had the cheese head on and then all of a sudden there were chips and dips in it or what. But I was just like, wow. Like, Matt was out here in San Diego, and it was just when I was beginning to start becoming a Packer fan. I was like, that is too cute for words. Oh, I missed your head. I don't have a cheese head. You know why? Because I have my head is the size of like a 2-year-old baby. I have a really small head, and I tried them on, and they're like out here, and they just flip and heavy.
I too have a very small head, so when I do wear a cheese head, it's usually on top of a toque. Like that's the only way that it'll stay on.
Right.
For those who know hat sizes in the audience, I'm a 7 3/8. I
don't know hat sizes, but I wear children's small. Like, look at my little head.
I then have enough head size for all of us because I actually have a massive melon, and hats almost never fit. In fact, here's like the standard kind of cap that they would sell kind of anywhere, and like I feel it looks weird on me. It makes my head look strange because it's just a little too small for how big my head is, So
I think it looks good. Look at those.
I'm wearing a snapback, and the way my snapbacks work is fully covered. It's fully covered. So I don't have overlap, but it is.
I overlap, and it's like a big bag in the back, and that's even small. Like it's terrible. I just
here I have another hat next to me. So there you go. So
yep.
Yeah. No, mine go on all the way, and then it's like a big bulge in the back. But then I can put my ponytail in there, so that kind of works. But it doesn't look real great in the back. Okay.
We're talking hats. We're talking cheese. We're talking cheese hats.
Cheese hats.
Those are like 3 of my favorite things. So like it makes sense. I'm almost never without a hat. It's not because I'm like losing my hair. It's just I'm fiercely lazy. And I have an undercut, so I have to actually do my hair. And so I wear a hat most of the time.
Yeah.
Hat life. Yeah.
I wear a ponytail. And I think I'm going bald because of it, but that's okay.
I wake up and my hair's like this every morning, so it's
your hair is always, Pappy's here for your curly locks.
Here for my hair. That's true. It's a common topic in the comment section. That's
Pappy says the baristas see Matt's curly locks and they get all giggly. And Iowa Joe says, I have a big head. I can't wear snapbacks. I have to extend them all the way out, and still doesn't fit. So I'm the opposite of Iowa Joe. Yeah, my head is
Iowa Joe. If you have access to a 3D printer, you can actually print snapback extenders.
Oh,
they take 15 minutes to print. Find them on Thingiverse. Most libraries nowadays have 3D printers, and you'll just pay for your material. And one of those should cost you 25 cents worth of material.
Good tip. Good tip.
Give her a shot.
I put these room divider thingies in from IKEA, and it was my neighbor moved out, so she gave them to me. I used different panels, but anyway, the little attachments, they don't make them anymore, so you can't buy replacements. And I found a 3D printer that was printing them. I love it. I love 3D printing. So awesome. Yeah, for 3D printing. Okay. So, are you wearing pants now? We got through that one.
We got to circle back to me wearing pants.
Coming back home. Okay. Okay, so I'm interested in these area codes 719 via 269 via 906 via 810. So 719 via 2. Okay. So, are you 810 now or are you 719?
No, I'm 719 now.
Okay.
Previous place I lived before that was 269, before that was 906, and before that was 810.
Okay, where's 269?
So 269 is Southwest Michigan, St. Joseph. Okay. It's why I know Chicago. I was about 20 minutes from the South Shore. So
got it.
Park in Michigan City, $9 to get in and out of the city. Good times. Good times. Nice. Saw a lot of Detroit Tigers versus the White Sox games. And I wasn't even a baseball fan at the time.
Okay, so where's 906?
That would be the Upper Peninsula. That's the entire UP is 906.
I should know that. That's my brother lives. Well, he has a home there. I think his area code is something else though. Okay, and then 810.
Flint, Michigan.
Wow.
Gotcha.
Oh wow! I have a
whole lot of parts of Michigan is where you've been.
Okay,
I love Michigan, man.
Yes, so, I just saw some pictures from Frankenmuth.
Yep, Little Bavaria.
Very
really good. really good fried chicken.
Okay.
There's a restaurant there called Zender's. Amazing fried chicken. There's fudge and saltwater taffy as far as the eye can see. Frankenmuth is a very common weekend spot for me growing up.
Oh, pretty. And I saw lots of pictures with murals of butterflies and then a wooden covered bridge like you see in Vermont. Yes. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, born and raised in Flint, Michigan. I went to the same high school as Michael Moore.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So like the most famous Flintstone.
Right.
Say Flintstone? Is that
Yes.
people call themselves from there?
Some do.
I love that. So, okay, so you're a Michigander. Then how did you become a Packer fan?
So
and who encouraged you? Yes.
Well, my dad's a Youper, and my mom's a troll, and so we spent. That's so Michigan terms. If you're from the Lower Peninsula, you're referred to as a troll because you live below the bridge.
Oh, I did not know that. What? Yeah. Oh my God, that went right over my head because I visited my brother in Upper Peninsula, and I've heard Youpers, and they would talk about trolls, but it never.
Yep. Okay. So that's people from the Lower Peninsula. Because you're below the bridge. That's so. My mom, born and raised 810 resident, and my dad grew up right on the border to Wisconsin, a small town called Bessemer. It's about I think it's like 8 miles from Hurley, Wisconsin. And so it's all Packer country up there. And ironically enough, my dad is a Bears fan.
Huh.
Yeah, go figure. Yeah. And so his sister, my Aunt Kathy, married sorry, Pappy said snapback extender made of cheese courtesy of Sargento. that would probably smell. That's like
it would sell and it would smell.
It would smell. It would sell. You could eat it, at the end of the day.
Totally.
And you would after drinking all that whiskey.
You'd have to make it out of something.
All those old fashions.
Yeah, you'd have to make it out of something real sturdy, like an aged Gouda. It would be a very expensive.
It really hard, like a Parmesan. Yeah.
Well, Parmesan's a really low fat cheese. It gets hard real fast, but Gouda still has some malleability. What's funny is I'm mostly a programmer, and I have to learn these things because I have to understand the process to program the equipment.
Right.
So anyway, so my aunt married a Wisconsinite. My uncle Mike, he's from Hurley, northern Wisconsin area, and when I was 3, I think, he got me to start saying "Go Pack Go" to bother my dad.
Love this.
And then, when I was 7, I was allowed to stay home from church to watch football with my dad, and
always
I was like, "Yep." And it was like, so my dad traveled a lot for work, and so anytime available with him was always taken. And so it's like, yeah, I would much rather sit and watch this game I don't understand than go to church, get dressed up and go to church.
You don't understand.
And so, and the Lions outside of my entire life, outside of Barry Sanders, the Lions were bad. And so Packers games played a lot because the Packers were really good. And it just so happened that the year I started watching football, the Packers won the Super Bowl.
Nice.
So, and Brett Favre was in the middle of his 3-peat MVP, and it just kind of took off from there. And I've been a Packer fan since I was 3 or whatever, but I started following football, I think around I was 7.
Cool.
And my uncle Mike was the one who really pushed me. And Mike signed up for season tickets when he was born, as most Wisconsinites do. And he did not get tickets until the expansion in, was it 2010? It was I think it was 2010 because that's when there was a stock sale. Or it was 2010, 2011. It was after the Super Bowl.
There. Yeah.
And he got green package tickets, so he didn't even get the full set. And he waited 56 years to get to that point, and it was just he passed away a few years later, and he didn't really get to see the finished Hall of Fame expansion. And I went there with my wife in 2016, and I'm getting misty talking about this.
I am too.
Walking into the room with the bronze footballs and the starry ceiling, I just started bawling. I was like, Mike didn't get to see this, and that's like he's the reason I'm standing here.
Yeah,
and
wow.
So I get to enjoy it for him, and my Aunt Kathy still follows the Packers, and her two sons, not real big football folks. It's funny, my cousin Noah graduated high school at 6'3", 300 pounds, and the biggest baby you could ever meet. Went into theater. Like, he's a good actor too. Like, but yeah, I was like, Noah, just like learn to play right tackle. Like, please, you will get free college. Like go to the theater program at Whitewater and go in and play right tackle.
Yeah,
nope, never.
That would be interesting.
Never got into football, so.
Wow.
Well, pouring out Uncle Mike. Man.
Yeah.
Was Uncle Mike young when he died?
He was youngish. He was in his early 60s.
Yeah, that's pretty young.
But,
I'm in my early 60s.
Well, my paternal family. So Mike and I weren't related by blood. But my paternal family, they all passed away pretty early too. But Youpers usually come from mining families, and that tends to have a big section of it.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, like your grandpa died of lung cancer. It's like, oh, but he worked in a mine for 25 years.
Right.
Yeah. maybe cancer's not hereditary. Maybe he just worked in a mine.
Right.
Like,
do they still actively mine up there?
Some mines are starting to open back up. That's all. It's all copper country up there, and it got to the point where, and there wasn't a lot left, and the mining techniques of the day were not up to snuff for the amount of copper that you would get out. And then you hear occasionally about like so and so has a new method or whatever, and they'll reopen a mine, but it's not super mining country up there anymore. But you still hear about some copper industry. Logging's big.
Right. Yeah, I remember going for some hikes and seeing like copper. My brother telling me things. I don't remember much.
Yeah, so it's copper this, copper that. Copper Harbor, copper, like, it's all copper.
Copper Creek. Yeah, right.
Copper and pasties.
And trolls. God.
Yeah, love me some pasties.
Yeah.
Yes. And also, by the way, I can turn my accent on and off.
Let's hear it, man.
Yeah, me and my sister Katie went fishing. We had a great time, eh? My mother made some pasties, but she burned the crap out of them. It was she didn't use enough shortening, eh? A pasty is a like a pie crust pastry full of what is traditionally beef, carrot, onion, potato, and rutabaga.
Oh,
so kind of like a dry meat stew inside of a crust, flaky crust. And it was a mining lunch because you could make it in the morning and it would still be hot 5 hours later on the inside.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so pasties are great.
Pasties are awesome. I love that.
My sister makes just a big old pasty pie. She'll use entire pie crusts and then serve it in slices. Excuse me, a lot of ketchup. A lot of ketchup goes with that. Oh.
I just died inside.
I know. Ketchup is the topic of discussion.
I don't do any condiments. I don't do any condiments. I'm like, who is it? There's a couple of us who don't do. And Katie S is here. Hi, Katie. Nice to see you.
Katie S asked about shepherd's pie. Shepherd's pie would have potatoes on top with cheese. Pasties are usually dry, so it's
like a big hand pie, a big meaty hand pie, basically.
Yeah, I personally stay away from.
I'm still confused. I'm sorry, but okay.
Okay, so you take ground beef, cubed potatoes, diced up onion, and diced carrots, and then you kind of half cook it, and then you would wrap it in a pie crust, do a couple slits in it, maybe egg wash, oven, and then when it comes out, it's hot on the inside, and it stays hot on the inside forever.
Mm-hmm. Wow. The miner takes it off into the mines, and that's lunch.
Yep. And he has a hot, comforting lunch. It's you're not eating a cold sandwich after having a rough morning.
That's right.
And that's good. That's the
Giant Hot Pocket. There you go, Iowa Joe. Thank you.
Giant Hot Pocket says Iowa Joe, and Katie wants to know, how do you spell
You spell pasty the exact same way you spell the thing that
The
goes.
things, the pasty.
That's all it's all that's on my mind right now. I'm sorry.
Yes, they are spelled exactly the same way, and it can cause and it can cause some confusion when written down.
I need to get with my linguistics etymology people and find out why pasties are called the other one. All of it.
So pasties are likely called pasties because they tend to be Cornish, and I'm assuming it's a Cornish word,
right?
For some like meat pocket or something like that.
That's what I got. Yeah.
For Hot Pocket.
Yeah.
It's a Cornish word for hot.
Yep. No. So yeah. Katie asked, no liquid or cream or something. No. It honestly like you season the you use like 80-20 beef, and
yeah,
so
if you're using the ground beef, right?
So there's enough to kind of, but and then also like plenty of seasoning. You know, you're not just gonna put it in without flavor. And also the vegetables.
If you were my mother, you would. If you were my mother, you would.
But and the vegetables also cook down to provide some, I guess, lubrication would be the word. It's
there. It is. Right. Yep.
It's definitely fluid. I like. Okay, I don't want to say the 5-letter M word because I know that's a bad word for a lot of people.
Yes. Fluid.
Magic. It's magic. That's the.
It is. It is that on the inside.
It is.
Yes.
There was actually a takeout pasty place in Madison where I grew up. My mom found out about called. This name was great. Papa Miles Teddy Wedgers. And so they had like the traditional pasty, but they had other flavors too. So they had like a pizza, a steak, like all kinds of stuff. So when my mom found out about that, I was probably like early high school. So it was like every week she would just stop there, and that was like 2 nights dinners for like a year.
Mm-hmm.
So I've eaten a lot of pasty.
Okay, say that name again. Papa
Miles Teddy Wedgers.
Outstanding. I gotta write this down. Hold on. Papa.
I don't know if the place is still there or not, but and then it had equally great
Teddy Wedger.
Teddy Wedgers, yeah.
So maybe that's another word for pasties. Is a Teddy Wedger?
Pasties, not pasties.
Pasties.
So I don't know if my all-time favorite book is called American Gods. It's written by Neil Gaiman. He's a comic book writer.
Yeah.
And he's British. And American Gods spends a lot of time taking place in northern Wisconsin. And it is, you feel if you feel the research that he put into it. It's very accurate. Mm-hmm. And the main character goes to a diner and he looks at the menu and he goes, like, what is a pasty? And he's like, this is and so he goes to the owner and he's like, what is this? And she goes, oh, it's pronounced and then like phonetically pasty. And she goes, this is the best non-Youper pasty. She goes, non-Youper pasty you'll ever have. And he goes, what's a Youper? He's like, yeah,
that's how I feel right now. I'm just like grasping for.
Well, that's the thing is in the Packer space, you don't get a lot of Michiganders who can talk about both sides of the bridge, and I like to be that peace bridge, I guess, between the two.
You are the bridge.
You are the bridge.
I am my own. I'm my own Fort Michilimackinac.
So I love Neil Gaiman. I just want to say, sorry, Don. I just want to say real fast. I love Neil Gaiman. I actually went and like read the entire run of The Sandman this last year. It was like for part of the down part of the season of the off season. I was like, man, I need something to like keep myself busy. And actually, I was telling Katie about this actually when I was reading it. But for those who haven't, man, Sandman's so good. Go back, check it out. It's a pretty quick read because it's like 80 issues or whatever, but they're they're quick reads. So Neil Gaiman's fantastic.
Yeah. Good book recommendation. We need to have our own book club now that we don't have our great mind to lead us on what to read and not to read.
No more weekly book club.
A book club for people who actually have. Okay, never mind. Okay, so why is it called pasty, not pasty?
I have no idea. I'm assuming it's just the Cornish pronunciation.
That'd be my guess. Yeah.
But you guys both were like, duh! Like on me, like in the
because a pasty is something else. That's why.
Yeah, that's how you know the difference. Oh, okay.
So like in a burlesque dance, you know.
I thought that was the same thing, but they're spelled the same, but they're pronounced.
They're spelled the same. They're pronounced differently.
Yeah. So this is why the pronunciation is so important.
That's why the pronunciation is important.
Okay, got it. Well, I can understand that because you would paste. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
That would hurt. Yeah. Not good.
Would not recommend eating a pasty. Would not recommend wearing a pasty. So.
Oh man, think of the burns.
Yeah.
Well, shout out to that's fantastic there, Uncle Mike. Love that story. Mm-hmm. So, you do an awful lot for Packers fans in terms of content creation. So again, let's go back to your Twitter. So you've been doing Packers content since 2007, or you've been gaming since 2007?
So I've been podcasting on and off since then. Started making Packers content in 2015. Pack to the Future was a brand new website, and I got approached by the guy who ran it at the time, Brian Fanfara. I still to this day can't say Brian's last name right. Brian hasn't really been much on Twitter in the last 3 or 4 years, like during the big explosion of Packers Twitter. Mm-hmm. So he's less known, and he even handed over the reins of Pack to the Future. But yeah, I wrote a couple draft profiles for them, wrote some articles, and then Tex Western over at Acme Packing Company. Like at the time, I was commenting a lot, and my comments were very popular. And he was like, "Hey, like I've read some of your stuff. Do you want to come make stuff for us?" And I was like, "Sure." And so I just started making. It originally started off as GIF reactions. Hey, Iowa Joe said they had Brian on the Outback podcast. That's great. I'm glad
his
that
name
Brian
sounded really familiar to me. And I'm sorry to interrupt. For those of you who are listening and not watching, we're watching the comments too. So that's fantastic.
That is great. Brian's a great dude, and actually he lives in Denver. He's not too far from me, and is related to maybe one of my best content creation stories. Brian was part of. But yeah, so shout outs to Pack to the Future. Like they will forever be in my link tree, my bio, even though I haven't written for them in years and years and years. They are the very first people to be like, "Hey, can you put something on wax for us?" Like that was, and that like I wouldn't be doing content now. I wouldn't have the reach I do. I wouldn't have the followers I do if it all didn't start with Brian. So
nice.
I love that. What, would you like to share that little story? Your favorite content?
Well, it's related to one of my superlatives.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. We'll get to that. Okay.
Yeah. See, this is going to do a callback. I listen to the show. All right. Like I know.
Awesome. Thank you. That's awesome. Okay. So you do a lot for Packers Fan, and you have for many years in terms of content creation. So how do you get everything done with your cheese job, right? You've got a cheese job, which is really important. And who's your biggest behind the scenes supporter?
So it was a lot easier to make content before my kids were born. So my wife and I bought our house in 2017. And the third bedroom was my office, and I just was cranking stuff out. And that's kind of when I built most of my audience. Mm-hmm. Actually, I should rephrase, and actually I can answer the second part of that. Aaron Nagler, like shout outs to the Cheesehead TV guys, Aaron Nagler and Corey Banke. They regularly signal boost my stuff. They legitimately like the content I make. And so I would credit legitimately 50% or more of the reach that I have ever seen was because of them.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's great.
Like when I started making YouTube videos, Nagler was the first person to really push it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so like their biggest encouragement is the Cheesehead TV guys being the OGs and liking the stuff that I make.
That's beautiful.
And just as for the content that I crank out nowadays, I really just mostly like help other people do stuff. I was a big GIF guy on Twitter before. Like what's funny was some of my GIFs that I've made like as jokes are in the Twitter GIF search now, and I never did that.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite one that I've ever made was about Tunyon. And so if you go in the Twitter GIF search now and look for Tunyon time, there's a Cool Runnings edit in there. I made that. Like get on up, it's Tunyon time.
I love that.
Yeah, so that was my bread and butter for a long time, and then I moved into video. I started making a show called Hottest Take of the Week, where I would look for like the worst takes on Twitter and just roast the person and rate the hotness of the take. After my daughter was born, it was really hard to do that because those took so much time to record and so much time to edit, and it got to the point where you'll see if you go on the YouTube channel and you watch videos that I made after my daughter was born, it's very dark in the background, and I'm like, "Hey everybody, welcome to." So I don't do nearly as much now as I would like to, in terms of my own stuff. I help other people out, and I occasionally post your random stuff on, like 5-minute Photoshops are kind of my. KDS in the chat says she loves the Tunyon Time.
I just looked it up. I
think people listening probably like, wait, let's see this. I myself.
Yeah, we're gonna have to post that one.
so the Tunyon Time GIF, that was my brand. I made GIFs like that for a long time.
Cool.
And I'd like to get back into making videos. It's just basically every year I will review Madden to keep it as a tax write-off. And during I think it was 2020, I started making virtual reality content because I wanted to make my headset a write-off. And I was like training, like, because it was like when Rodgers was out with COVID. I made a video of like training to be the next Packers quarterback while Rodgers is out with COVID using virtual reality, and it was just me poorly playing football games in VR. Yeah, it's been a fun ride last, oh gosh, like 7, 8, 9 years.
7, yeah, that's what 7 or 8 years, yeah. So what is your highlight? I think you've kind of given us some, but with you, are you still active with your YouTube channel and Acme Packing Company? So you have a highlight. I think you kind of gave us your highlight for Pack to the Future.
Yeah. So I made a GIF when Jordy Nelson retired that went kind of viral. It was the ending of the Fast and the Furious movie after Paul Walker died, where him and Vin Diesel are looking at each other and like Paul Walker turns off. I put Jordy Nelson's head on Paul Walker, and I put Aaron Rodgers' head on Vin Diesel. Aww. And that did numbers.
Wow.
That did numbers, and people were posting it underneath, like Jordy goodbye videos and underneath Aaron Rodgers tweets and stuff. And in terms of like my most successful piece of content, it was probably that. But all-time favorite piece of content that I've been related to, I built relationships with the other SB Nation blogs. Pride of Detroit, Windy City Gridiron, not so much the Daily Norseman.
Good.
I'm good.
I'll say
not surprising.
The contacts that I would consider friendly from Daily Norseman are no longer with that website. Shout outs Arif Hassan. That dude rules.
He's amazing. Yes.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah.
So Arif cut his teeth on Daily Norseman and continues to be a cool dude. But through Pride of Detroit, I was discussing pizza with one of the writers, Mike Payton, and he was talking about. He's like, "Hey man, like now that you live in Colorado, this was years ago." He goes, "You ever had Bojo's? It's Colorado style pizza, like Colorado style. Bojo's is the only place to ever claim to have a Colorado style pizza." He's like, "Yeah, we went there when we were kids. It was great." And I was like, "Yeah, I've been to Bojo's. It's like an hour for me. It's okay." They have the huge crust. It's like a twisted breadstick, and they serve it with honey.
Honey?
What?
Yeah. So basically, the crust is like the size of my fist, and then it's like your average like medium size pizza slice, and the pizza's really good.
Okay.
You eat the pizza, and then you have the huge breadstick crust left over, and they serve it with honey. So you put honey on the crust.
Oh, like dessert sort of. Okay.
It's just really good. It's like a sweet roll. It's kind of how I describe it.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, so I was talking to Mike about that, and he was like, do you think you could mail me one? And I was like, I don't live near a Bojo's. And I was like, but my buddy Brian does. So called up Brian, like, hey man, like, and then we started a group chat. It was me and Brian and Mike, and like, hey guys, like, like how can we do that? And what's funny is I was just talking about this with Mike a few weeks back. Turns out Bojo's now officially will mail you a frozen pizza.
Yeah.
But at the time Brian like orders, he's like, hey, can I get like a raw pepperoni? And they're like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, don't cook it, just like make it and then like give it to me.
Trendsetter, another trendsetter there.
Yeah, right.
It's Mike wrote an article about it, and that is probably to this day like my favorite piece of content I've been a part of.
I love that. I have a favorite pizza from my hometown. It was actually not just my favorite pizza. It's New York Times favorite pizza. But they, for years, I mean, for decades, they put it on dry ice and ship it. Mm-hmm. And they do that with Kringles from my town too. They don't do the dry ice part, but they ship the Kringles. But yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing. If you want, your pizza, you have to get your pizza.
My hometown hot dogs, Kogel brand meats. I'll tell you this: spent a summer working in a Kogel plant, still eat their products.
So despite that, wow, that's must be good.
That is, and also made quality and not poorly. when you see how the sausage is made and you still eat the sausage, I feel like it's the best endorsement I can give.
Yeah, and that's a good segue to one of the questions I have for you, because it is. Yeah, let's get back to that pre-show conversation. So I'm a vegan, and we're talking a lot about sausage and pizza and cheese, but that's okay. I saw a horrific image come across I think it was Twitter yesterday, which I quickly scrolled past because I just couldn't take it, but it involved a cow and a person and atrocities, just what I would call atrocities. And it said, and the caption that I caught before I scrolled was, "This is how cheese is made." I think that I saw the caption first, and so I looked down, and then I was like, ah. But tell me, so was that just somebody trying to get attention, going over the top? Tell us how your cheese is made. Well, maybe not too many details. Not too many details.
Okay, so the only thing I can infer from the evidence you're giving is it was an insemination. That's the only
right.
And cows have to be pregnant and or recently produced a calf to make milk, or to make in quantities. And so that tends to be the biggest issue that people have, even when cows are treated well at farms, and the farms that supply us, the cows are treated very well. They are in very well ventilated areas and clean, and because that's the other thing is what people don't realize is that a clean and happy cow is healthy. If you are in detritus, your cows don't make much milk, or they get sick, and the milk that they make can't be sold. And so it is in your best interest to keep your cows healthy and happy, and it's just common sense. But I mean, cows have to be inseminated in order to keep the industry going, and I totally get that is a fair hang up. My friend Dylan is a vegan, and he and I have had this discussion many times, and I was like, I get it, like that's a fair thing, like this cow did not ask to be pregnant. Like that's
but why can't they do it naturally? Like, don't they ever do it naturally?
Well, because you're not going to be batting 1,000, and bulls are also kind of difficult to maintain. They have temperament. They can only produce so much quality excretions.
Insemination products.
And so when you have a higher percentage, and that's just it's a time is money kind of thing. But then also, so like,
the bulls are taken totally out of the equation.
I mean, the bulls are still part of it, but like they're part of it somewhere else.
Yeah, which we were not going to talk about.
Yeah. But
okay.
So that tends to be the issue that people have with the dairy industry is the insemination of cattle. But then you get into the minutia of consent in the animal world, and it's a really hard thing to say. That's some muddy waters that you're wading through.
Well, no, I get it, and I used to have purebred a certain exotic kind of dog, and most of them had to use artificial insemination, or they chose to because they wanted to have a certain line of DNA and genetic code and all that. So yeah, I get that. I just haven't thought about it much, like Katie here in our conversation chat here. she's a mom of 3. She says, I didn't know that a cow fact until I 3 years ago. I mean, I don't even know what a cow looks like, evidently. I'm such a city girl. But so you're not alone, Katie.
You don't know what a cow looks like? What?
Imagine the biggest.
I didn't know my farm animals very much until I started following Crouton.
Oh, I was gonna say, imagine the biggest corgi you've ever seen with a huge gut. Like it's 1,000-pound corgi.
I know, and I mean, a couple times I saw them as a child. I was just scared because they're so big, and I was scared of horses.
Cows are cows' evolutionary trait is to be delicious and stupid. That is so. Cows left out to their own devices would go extinct almost instantaneously. Mm-hmm. They are dumb. They are slow. They require a lot of food, and they have a soft spot in their skull where if you hit them right there, they die.
Just God!
like cows are their evolutionary trait is to be domesticated. Mm-hmm. That's what keeps the line going. In the exact same way that corn as we know it would go extinct in 3 years if it wasn't farmed.
Really?
Yeah, corn needs to be tended.
Is corn dumb? Corn is dumb.
Corn's dumb and tasty.
Yeah, essentially corn is dumb and not hardy. Any fruit that you and I eat from the grocery store has been engineered to the point of producing so if you ever see someone ended up on a deserted island and there's bananas and coconuts and they can live off of those, right? Wrong. Non-genetically modified bananas have 2 bites worth of meat in them, and it's seeds that are this friggin' big that can live through your digestive tract because they're designed to be carried by monkeys, not and so cows need cows need to be tended, and that's the evolutionary trait is they are useful. Horses would probably be fine because they're not terribly different than what they were thousands of years ago. But yeah, so
and cats too.
And cats, yeah, absolutely. Cats. Dogs would probably revert
back to wolves.
They would. It's still in there somewhere, right? Yep. I mean, I had a buddy who raced sled dogs, and I've been face to face with American gray wolves, and they're very similar.
Yeah, for sure. Sled dogs. For sure. I used to have Scottish deerhounds, and they were people would think they were wolves. So so it depends on the breed. Like a Chihuahua, not so much.
That's selective breeding for you. That'll get you a Chihuahua. But yeah, so I understand the hang up with that tends to be people's issue with the dairy industry because for all intents and purposes, the cows outside of that are treated very well. They are fed very well. And for example, like we make grass-fed free range products for other people. So we make butter for a company that is a how can I don't want to say like granola eaters.
Well, sure. They sell they sell to Whole Foods and
yes,
crunchy folks.
And so we do a lot of production that is grass fed, free range, and there's a noticeable difference. If you've ever seen butter from the store next to grass fed butter, it is different. It is darker. It smells like hay. It's the craziest thing. You smell it. It smells like a barn. But it's something to do with the cow's diet. But yeah, so it's advantageous to keep your cows happy and well fed, and
Right.
to feed them more than just like slop corn and whatnot. Excuse me. And in fact, the company I work for is I don't know what's beyond carbon neutral. Carbon positive,
Well,
carbon negative, whatever.
right.
Carbon negative, I guess,
Negative.
right? Like,
Yeah,
negative.
making carbon go away.
So in the filtration of the milk that we do, at the other end, you get water.
Okay.
You get what we refer to as polished water. It is the leftover water from milk from a cow. It is as pure as it pure can be.
Mm-hmm.
And we use that within our own processes. We use it for cleaning. We use it for everything. And at the end of the day, any of our gray water that gets left over goes through our waste treatment plant and gets pushed out to a lagoon where a local farmer uses that to farm or to irrigate his crops. So nothing that we do ends up getting wasted. And it's an important thing to me, because like it is really hard to work in an industry where there are moral quandaries if you don't have those kinds of concessions.
Yeah.
Like you try to be as the least awful version of something.
Right.
And so yes, like I totally understand the vegan standpoint of not agreeing with some of the base traits of the industry, but we try to be the best at not being awful. And it's not perfect. Nobody's perfect. It's just
right.
And like we have all of our kosher certifications, and we have rabbi oversights anytime we do our kosher for Passover runs, and it's kind of hard to lie to a man. I don't know if you ever meet a rabbi who is like a certified kosher rabbi, they know their stuff. Oh man. Like and they
don't play.
You're not getting anything.
They don't play. When I fly, even though I'm vegan, I learned over the years, because I used to travel a lot, that I didn't just order vegan, like when there was food, like when we had meals on planes. I guess those were the days. But anyway, I would fly vegan kosher, because the kosher made such a huge difference in what you do.
Does.
So if you're not vegan, just order kosher if you're ordering a meal on a plane.
So I can tell you this, Trinity, the shirt that I'm wearing, they have a vegan menu that was like one of their big draws before Matt took over, and he kept the vegan menu because of how popular the vegan menu was. He kept it going. Yeah. Legitimately, I crave some of their vegan dishes. I'm not even vegan.
That's right.
They have these vegan corn dogs with a they do sweet potato fries and this like curry ketchup with this garlic aioli, and it's so good.
Yeah.
And they also do Seton, which is a magical food.
I love that stuff.
Now, just saying the word can kill a person with celiac. Sand or water beds for the cows, Katie.
What do you mean they sleep on a water bed? Cows sleep on a water bed?
Like in the 70s, or
cows sleep standing? Cool. Cows sleep standing up. Actually, their joints lock.
Oh wow,
that's true. Mm-hmm. That's true. Like horses,
Katie,
right?
Katie has another question, actually, too.
Are the cows robotically milked?
Yes, they are robotically milked. They're hooked up. Robot's kind of a misnomer. It's it's an automatic sucker, I guess would be the best way to put it, but they're attached by
automatic sucker. Awesome. That's amazing.
I just died. Okay.
There are simulated calf machines that are hooked up. But here's the fun thing: if you don't milk a cow, it will get very sick.
Gosh.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure builds up, right? I mean,
they get
right.
sick.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, but
Iowa Joe just killed Matub. Oh no.
Iowa Joe. Okay, I'm not used to doing podcasts with live chat.
Well, it's a podcast and it's a live, so those who are
listening, it's great.
Those who are listening, we're sorry. We're trying to keep up with this chat. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Katie,
for the listeners, Joe just dropped about wow in the comments. It was perfectly timed.
Okay, so Katie S says the cows and barns around us live on sand. because it makes them happier. Sand as a flooring material is easier on cows' joints.
Oh,
yes, that's why I run on the beach. Yes,
yeah,
yes.
It's yeah. So they're
and not on the
and I believe there's a lot of like what you would consider anti-fatigue mats.
Right.
They have like kind of that at two.
Nice.
I think it's like 2 of the 4 farms have those, and the other ones have more of natural materials. Yeah, so it's. I mean, it's not perfect. But it's not awful.
Sounds like the cows are treated well. It sounds like that's awesome.
And that's the thing is, like I said, is it is advantageous to us to treat the cows well,
right?
Because remember those California cheese commercials?
I was just going to tell you, I live in California. They still going on. California cows are happy cows.
Yep, happy cows come from California, and it's always just like cold cows in Wisconsin. And it's like, come on. But what they don't tell you is if it gets too hot, cows get real mad. And so it's been a rough summer in Kansas because it's regularly triple digits. Oh, I should also rephrase. The company I work for is based out of Kansas. It's south.
Okay, I'm like picturing these cows in Colorado. Now I've got to completely redo my brain. Okay.
But you know what? You get far enough east in Colorado, and you are basically in Kansas. Like, it's funny is if you cross the Kansas border into Colorado, and like your Google Maps or whatever says like "Welcome to Colorado," and it shows a picture of like a dude skiing, it's Kansas. Like, it is flat as flat can be. And you're like, I'm a good 3.5 hours from the closest mountain, but sure, show me a picture of a snowboarder.
See, just the way you said "sure," there. Sure. Tell you're from Wisconsin.
There are words.
Yeah,
there are words that I can't turn off. A big one for me is I park in a garage.
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 GRADGE garage, and like I get crap about that. Or the number 2. Number 2.
Yes.
Always, and so like people are like you just snuck in like a random Midwest word. Or like I always ask for ranch with things, and apparently that's not really a thing in Colorado. Colorado's a big green chili state. A lot of green chili. I'll use figures of speech from the Midwest that people don't use out here. I still to this day say pop. I've been a pop person. Colorado's a soda state. But
I always said soda, but I'm closer to Chicago than.
But the Wisconsin pop soda mix is significantly more split than the Michigan. In Michigan, it is 100% a pop state, and in Wisconsin has a soda mix. But then you also have the
sorry, podcast listeners, we just got a comment.
So Iowa Joe just agreed with my GRAGE.
That is so funny. Iowa Joe says, "Oh my God, my grandpa lived in Wisconsin, and one time I went up for a visit, and someone had a sign out for I've got garage sale, and it was spelled garage."
GRAGE garage. Because I mean that's the phonetic. That would be the phonetic spelling of the way we say it, right?
I love that.
But I'm pretty sure bubbler people are pop people, and water fountain people are soda people.
I would disagree. I do bubbler and soda.
Interesting.
Oh, all right. Okay. Because bubbler is a very specific part of Wisconsin.
I think
coastal Wisconsin.
And also into like oddly with Pennsylvania and upstate New York, like these like really random stretches.
Right.
Did they make bubblers there?
It must be something like that. Yeah, it's like this really weird like sort of line across the top of the country.
Because I've been in California for like 40 years, I say water fountain, but I'm pretty sure I said bubbler. But my mother sounds more like a Canadian. My father sounds more like a Chicagoan. He sounded like he was from Chicago. So it may just be my family split, like the way they said things. But yeah, bubbler. People laugh. So, people giggle if I say bubbler.
in Colorado and I'm sure in California, bubbler has a completely different connotation. and so were I to call a drinking fountain bubbler, tend to get laughed at. Oh, it's a type of it's a marijuana device.
Oh, I was like, so.
Okay.
Yes, it's a specific type of one. It's actually more of like a pipe. But yeah, so
I've never heard that. Okay,
when people say bubbler in Colorado, they mean something very differently.
Well, of course, because that's all Colorado people think about, right? Is marijuana. I'm just joking. That was a joke. Okay.
Hey, I got kids. I can't partake in the jazz cabbage.
No, I'm from California. Like, I can talk, right?
You live in life.
Okay, very good, very good. Okay, so let's get back to our script.
Oh, right, in Michigan. Oh. In Michigan, I grew up saying left-handed cigarette. That is how my family referred to a marijuana joint. It was a left-handed cigarette.
That's amazing.
Right, and that is a like a okay. I got to do the Michigan thing on the hand, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Like here, you would say left-handed cigarette. in the
what?
In Detroit,
yeah,
you're printed Detroit there, yeah.
But then I guess that's also a Southern thing too. I've heard people from the South say it. But yeah, so etymology of different phrases coming out to Colorado. I have a good daily. It's not just alienated Colorado, Iowa. Joe says.
No. I embrace Colorado. I'm from California. We have dispensaries every 5 feet here. So we're
also
good.
the Colorado and California vibes are pretty homogenous.
100%. Yeah. 100%.
I brought it back to the milk thing. You guys get that?
There it is.
That's right. We've got the happy cows. We've got the dispensaries. We're good. We even have mountains here. You just have to go a couple miles that way, but not as beautiful. And I have been through that area. That's just a phenomenal area. So okay, yeah.
Don, are you about to get us back on track? There's
back on track. Okay.
Well, Matt's a reporting is eligible regular. He knows that this is pretty par for the course.
I am so happy. Okay, so one more question before we get to our superlatives, and we love to ask our guests this, and you've actually brought such a great dimension to all these questions. So I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this one. So, what you love the most about this is kind of interesting because you don't like anyone's tweets, but okay, so what you love the most about Packers Twitter and NFL Twitter, if you want to broaden it a little bit, and what you would change if you could change something.
So the thing that I love the most is, regardless of how bickery and pointed and angry the discussions can get, the community that will sprout up around that is second to none. I was a World of Warcraft player once upon a time. Packers Twitter feels very much like the heyday of World of Warcraft, where you are making these friends for life based off of this one shared interest that you then branch out. Mm-hmm. Like everybody starts with this one shared interest, and then it's like, oh, like so. On Twitter, you mentioned Monty, like Ferd Turgeson on Twitter. Monty and I were Twitter friends. We are both gym rats. We both have the same taste in music. We both have very similar political views. Monty's a very good friend of mine, and I met him because of Packers Twitter. Mm-hmm. Like the community that sprouts up in this, it is the sunflower that grows in the crack of the sidewalk. It is the beauty that sprouts from the chaos. Mm-hmm. It is the and I wouldn't be talking to you guys right now. I wouldn't be having this great time if it wasn't for this awesome Packers community. The thing that I would change were I to have the power, the 12 discussion. Mm-hmm. The people complaining about it would stop complaining, and the people begging for it would be fine with just the occasional discussion. That's the animosity that has split the fan base in half. It feels exactly like Favre Mania did back in the day.
Yeah, it really does.
But with a way more interconnected fan base than we had back then.
Mhm.
Because that's the thing, is back then you would argue on radio shows and the occasional forum comments and whatnot, but now it's everywhere and it's in your pocket. And so yeah, like I would just, the animosity within the fan base based on the quarterback, I would lessen that if I could. Like root against 12, root for, or sorry, he's 8 now, right? Root,
All right, yeah.
Yes. That's right. He's 8 and he's green.
Yeah, like I hope that they start off 5-0 and then have just enough wins to keep him going so he plays at least 11 games and the Packers are guaranteed a first round pick. And then I hope he retires on the spot. That's what I read. That's what I like he plays 65.005% of total offensive snaps and then retires on the spot. That would be my personal perfect scenario. But there are other people that like, oh, I want him to win a ring and I'm going to buy a split jersey that's a 12 on one side and an 8 on the other. And,
oh my goodness.
And like, oh man, like back when Favre went to the Jets, like that's the split jerseys. I remember the specifically because that year the Jets wore their Titans, the New York Titans throwbacks, which are blue and yellow.
Yeah.
And so you could get a blue and yellow Favre Jets jersey. So those were very popular because of the Acme Packing Company colorway.
Sure.
And yeah, and so like, where's that? I want to bring that because a lot of people like yeah, they booed Aaron and bring back Favre and the toilet bowl guy. You got this guy who'll take you to the Super Bowl and this guy will take you to the toilet bowl. And like, but when the season started and Aaron was good and then Favre was with the Jets and everybody was hunky dory for that year. We're not going to talk about the next years, but that year was great. I want that to happen right now. I want it to be week 3. I want Love to be good, and I want Rodgers to be good over in the AFC, and everybody to be having a great time. That's what I would change.
That's a great answer. We've never had that answer, and like we ask every single guest this question. That was, I like it. It's good stuff.
That's perfect. I agree with that, and I do agree too that with social media, it's made I didn't realize there was such a divide, but toward last year, before Aaron even left, somebody that I'm really close to said, "You hate Aaron Rodgers." And I was like, what? I hate Aaron Rodgers. And that was my first clue. It's like, oh, there's really like, you're either this or that. It was like real black and white kind of thing. It was like, wait a minute, there's lots of shades of subtlety in there. Yeah.
The problem that us advanced stat / film nerds had was we would say disparaging things about Rodgers' play, and then the comment section would be like, oh, well, that's because you're a pinko commie leftist and you don't like his political views. And I'm like, no, I don't want him to throw RPOs where he's chosen before the snap what he's going to do. Like,
exactly.
I don't like the run looks that he's checking into. These are the things that I'm writing articles about. I don't care that he does peyote in Peru. Like,
right. Yeah, it was. And it's funny that you said that about the communist pinky thief. It's like you're all of a sudden you're associated with a different political viewpoint because you enjoyed this player over that. It's like, what is happening here? And Katie says, I don't want Rodgers to be good because I want the highest pick possible. I don't know how that connects. How does that connect?
So because if Rodgers plays 65% of snaps, we get the Jets first round pick next year.
Yes.
So here it's a double-edged sword because you need them to be good enough to keep him in for 11 games.
Right.
11 games. If he plays every offensive snap for 11 games, that's roughly, I think it's like 67% of the season. So you need them to be good enough to be in the hunt by game 12. And then lose every game after that. Miss the playoffs, then you'll get pick number 12. Because honestly, like that's kind of like best case scenario for Packer fans. Because if they start off 0-6 and are mathematically eliminated by week 7, they're gonna sit him. Like they're gonna put in Zach Wilson, and then we don't get our first round pick. So you need him to be kind. You need him to be kind of good. You need him to be good enough. I don't. I'm terrified he's going to go and ball out because he's the most vindictive human being walking the face of this earth.
He really is. I was thinking about that today. Yeah,
and he's gonna throw for 6,000 yards just to spite the Packers, and that terrifies me.
He's going to try. I don't think he's going to pull it off because he's getting old. I mean,
I don't know.
I think his O-line is going to be the deciding factor.
Yeah, definitely.
The Jets O-line is suspect. If they can be average, he'll be a monster. If they are the Jets O-line from last year, he gonna die.
Yeah. But they only have to have a couple bad games for that to happen too.
Yes and no. A couple bad games and maybe the media turns on him, but you've also that's the thing is like Jets fans are used to losing, so it's kind of hard to. It's kind of hard to, but okay. But think about, I'm a big stats person, and I like following trends. Who's the last Hard Knocks team to make the playoffs?
There you go. Exactly.
I believe the
Jets.
Jets.
What does that say?
I think the Jets made the playoffs. Yeah.
Oh,
after
being on Hard Knocks.
Yeah, I think they were the last team to make the
playoffs.
But that Jets team was really good.
Okay.
Mark Sanchez went to the AFC Championship game with that Jets team. This Jets team might be a quarterback away. It might not, but traditionally Hard Knocks teams don't do super well.
Right.
And you've got a brand new offense coming into guys who had an offense that looked nothing like it before. But even though a lot of the offense is now Aaron Rodgers' friends, and hey, maybe he took the pay. Maybe he took the pay cut to take on Bakhtiari. Who knows?
Yeah, the pay cut thing was interesting. Is that people were like trying to get Packers fans to weigh in on the pay cut, and I'm like,
oh god, that whole thing. It's just like he's not our quarterback. He's not our problem. Like, good for them. I don't care. I don't care.
And I care deeply, but I'm not going to be a jerk about it. I would love to and people like yeah, man, it's you compare it to an ex-girlfriend or whatever, like oh, he broke up with you and started hitting the gym,
right. He literally did that. But it's so annoying. Yeah.
But you know what? Like it's whatever. Like, and that's the thing is Aaron, actually, who is in the chat right now, the only Aaron I acknowledge is
Aaron I know is Aaron Ellis. Okay, but sure.
So Aaron Ellis said to me the other day, she's like, "Hey, I don't see you on the timeline very much anymore," and I was like, "Man, because I'm over a lot of the drama. It's not fun. So I'm not
right. It's awful.
I'm here for a good time, not a long time, right? Like that's
yeah." I saw that post. It was one of the reporters. I can't remember. It was clickbait, of course. And I just was like, oh. And I just got it right off of whatever they're calling it today, Twitter.
Yeah. Okay, let's get back to what you guys are best at, your militant positivity.
Oh, back to our militant positivity.
Militant positivity.
All right, so it is time to transition over to our superlatives. So we're going to go guest first, Matt Matub, then Matt Pickett, and then me. I think I might just go mine until next week because we're running low on time. But so Matub. Yes. It doesn't sound right as Matt Tub. What are your superlatives?
I get that a lot though. I get Matt Tub a lot.
Yeah.
Like I
want to say Matt, but Tub's next. So it doesn't work. So you brought some superlatives this week?
I did.
I can't wait.
So right now, the best Twitters follow that you can get is Big Packers 4X, aka Big B, aka the Make-A-Wish Kid.
Yes,
with his videos this week,
because he is the number one source for for bootleg training camp videos, and also the comments underneath the videos of like the team is coming for you, like It is okay. Also, it's self-serving because I had what I believe to be a good Mark
Was?
Murphy joke.
I think I retweeted it.
About, and so, but yeah. So also B is a great dude.
Yes.
He's a kid, and he has been through a lot, and he's been positive through the whole thing, and he's a great dude. Go follow him. Like that's
for sure.
But honestly, I'm pretty sure like anybody listening at this point has to know who he is. Like if you know who I am, you know who that dude is. Like
he's been on the show at least 3 times now. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, right. Like come on. Like yeah, go follow him. But also he like when people were like, oh, like so and so got hurt on this play, and then B like posts a video, goes, I think it was this one. Like and he even had the stones on him to retweet Packers beat writers describing plays with the video. Like, man, they're gonna be hunting you in the parking lot, dude. Like this is big. But yeah, so that's right now the best off-season follow.
Big B.
I believe. Okay, so the next one is I believe you should always. I have this listed as the best Lions follow, but I believe this is the best NFC North rival follow currently. Is A to Z Peyton. That's my buddy Mike Peyton, the one from the pizza story. Mike also looks a lot like me, and like people made a lot of jokes about that. We're both bearded with similar complexions and builds, and but Mike's a great dude. He's a good writer. He recently left Pride of Detroit to go to A to Z Sports, but it's his full-time job now. So he went from blogging to being a full-time Lions writer. And I support people following their dreams, and it would help him out if you followed him and read his stuff. And he's a great dude. So,
I love that. What is his?
He went to A to Z.
Oh, A to Z. Got it.
Yep.
Okay.
So ATOZ _ Peyton. His name is Mike. Okay. Mike Peyton. He and I also, if you follow him, you will see he and I banter back and forth regularly on the timeline.
Ooh, nice.
I love that. Okay, we'll follow him, and he'll be listed in our mentions. Yes.
And so like if probably your best off-season rival follow. Like, but yeah. I love that dude. He lives in Holland, Michigan, which is about where my mom lives. So Holland's a great place. And then as of right now, your off-season homework, the best off-season book that you can read in between training camp and preseason is a book that came out. It's actually quite a while ago now, but it is still relevant. It is called A Few Seconds of Panic by Stefan Fatsis. It's about a sports writer who was once upon a time a very good soccer player who tries out to be the kicker for the Denver Broncos. It's so good. It's so good. You are talking about an everyman. He is. I think he calls himself 5'8" and 160 pounds, and he can kick 40-yard field goals after some training. And so he's the Broncos' backup quarterback all through the preseason, or backup kicker. Sorry, he's the Broncos' backup kicker all through the preseason. The book is very good. I love any behind the scenes look into the locker room lifestyle. What's funny is my two favorite books about football are about the Broncos, which is weird. A few Seconds of Panic is one. The other one is called Slow Getting Up. It's by a former backup tight end named Nate Jackson. And it's about life as a roster bubble player. You know what? Read both of those. There you go. They're both great. But A Few Seconds of Panic is the one that I always recommend. But Slow Getting Up Slow Getting Up has a darker tone to it because he's in it. He's a contact player, whereas A Few Seconds of Panic is like special teams is kind of weird and like people are having fun and like oh my god, dude.
Aaron with the joke real fast in the background. Sounds like a book my ex wrote. There it is. Where it is, Aaron.
Because and the title of the book comes from a description of kicking by a former NFL kicker who said that kicking is a few seconds of panic followed by hours of being bored.
Yeah. So these are nonfiction.
They're autobiographical. So,
wow. Okay. I did not.
So
I thought they were
real stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah, so A Few Seconds of Panic. Stefan Fatsis is a real sports writer who really played for the Broncos.
Okay, cool.
And Slow Getting Up, slow Getting Up by Nate Jackson. Nate Jackson is a real former NFL player who really played for the Broncos and the 49ers. And Jay Cutler almost got him killed. What ended Nate Jackson's career was catching a late pass over the middle from Jay Cutler.
Oh.
So that's in the book. Mm-hmm. So there's your Packers like
connection
work around there. Yeah, Nate's a very good writer too. But yeah, like I said, the tone of A Few Seconds of Panic is much lighter. It's a much easier read. Because it's written by a sports writer, not by like a downtrodden athlete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's really cool.
That's awesome.
Really cool.
Check it out. It's a great book.
Yeah.
I'm liking this idea of doing a book club here because we're starting like.
Look, I got NFL book recommendations for days.
Awesome. Okay, we need to collab on this. Sounds good.
Absolutely.
Okay, Maddie, what did you bring?
All right. Well, got 3 superlatives like usual. My first one is best in-depth profile. So if you guys didn't see this, Ryan Wood, who writes for, I think, Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, if I remember correctly, did a really cool profile and kind of like timeline on Jordan Love's, like from where he started to where he is now, like going all the way back to like when he was a little kid and his experience playing, and the way how like Matt LaFleur was like really investigating him before the draft. Like it was very in-depth, very fascinating. The article is on Packers News, I think is the name of the website. So it's one of those where you have to have a subscription. I read it before they put the paywall on it by accident, so I happened to like luck out on that. But still, it's a website worth having a subscription to. It's like 99 cents a month or something like that. So
yeah. Spoon regularly tweets a link to get like 6 months for $5 or something like that.
Yeah, and so you get writing from Ryan Wood from Spoon. I think Cassidy Hill probably contributes there too, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
So a lot of really good writers. I mean, there's like amazing football minds right there. So
also J.R. Radcliffe, trending sports reporter for the
There it is, exactly. Way to throw the plug in for him, man. That's great. So yeah, that was a really solid article. It just blew me away. It was so good. So highly recommend that. More of a long form thing. It probably took me like it's one of those things where like I'll just read this quick article, and then like 15 minutes later my kid's like, are you gonna make dinner or what? It's like, oh crap, that's right. Responsibilities. So set aside a little bit of time for that one, but it's definitely worth it. So do you guys see that one?
I did. It was so good.
It was so good.
I work remotely, man. I see all the news.
Yeah.
So highly recommended that one. Next one is Best Pain. So this was an article that Jacob Westendorf wrote, and he's writing for SI.com now. So he's kind of like writing buddies with Bill Huber, which is exciting to see because if you remember, for those listeners who heard the episode with Jacob Westendorf, he was talking about how much he owed to Bill Huber for his own like growth and development as a writer. So to see them like working together and like retweeting each other's stories and stuff like that has been just like really cool to see. But anyhow, Jacob wrote this really amazing, painful article, kind of talking about how the defense for the Packers on that side of the ball for the last 10 years, actually going back even like 12 years, has caused such problems for the team to be successful. And that intuitively, like you can think about like just how rough it's been on defense at times, and even with like the talent we have on it, and how last year just didn't really like come together in a way that we thought it would. Jacob really, he digs into it. He like when you have a wound and you just dig into the wound is what it felt like. Really gets into it. And so the thoroughness, and Jacob's he's a really good writer. I love his tone. It was a good one. It was hard. It was a hard read, but a really good one just the same. So you guys see that one actually?
I've seen nothing this week.
I just clicked on it. So
yeah, I'm clicking.
It's a hard read, man. It's a hard read. Then I have one more. This last one is Best Guest. So one of my favorite podcasts, as our regular listeners know, is Blue 58 by John Meerdink. It's just fantastic podcast. Somebody was talking about the other day. I mean, I shouldn't say somebody was talking about this. What was it? Somebody I was talking to didn't even know it existed. And I was like, how do you not know about this podcast? It's one of the best ones out there. But anyhow,
John's voice is unfair.
It's powerful.
Also, by the way, you want to talk about a book club? John and I's DMs is exclusively talking about books.
Oh, nice.
Oh, wow.
And he does the book club for the podcast and for the powersweep.com. So yeah, I mean, that guy knows his books, no doubt. But anyhow, his one of his most recent episodes from this week, I think it's the most recent one from this week at this point, was he had a athletic trainer, this guy named Luke Lyons, came on, and they just talked the whole time about ACL injuries, recovery, like just a lot of intricacies about it. You know, of course, John's asking lots of good questions and follow-up questions and like all kinds of stuff I had no idea about with this stuff that shed a lot of light onto, you know, what the players go through, how long the recovery actually is, what it's like coming out of it. It was so fascinating. And like all the things that John does, it was also very concise. So it was like, you know, 20 or 30 minutes, like shorter than our podcast today, shorter than a lot of podcasts out there. You get so much information from such a short amount of time. And because his thing is that he wants to have a podcast that you can like listen to on the way to work, and then it's done when you're at work because you got through the whole thing. So highly recommend that one. I learned a ton from that. So that's good stuff. And everyone should be listening to John Meerdick. He's amazing. Of
course. Well, as I mentioned, although there's some really great segues about the Lions that you guys brought up for my superlatives, but I was going to do my third and final NSC North division rivals fraternizing with the enemy segment on the Lions, but I'm going to forego it for one more week. So you got to come back next week and we can talk about why that's so fun to know about. And so, but before we go, I want to ask our guests, and thank you again, Matub, for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been just fantastic. And I hope our podcast tonight has given you, or today, whenever you're listening, I think we come out on Saturdays for our podcast. So if you're watching live, yay. But if you're listening Saturday, happy weekend. Hope you got a lot of good information. I sure did. And all of the information you're going to get here is going to be linked into the description. So, gosh, I have a lot to listen to. I already had a list of things to listen to. So now I've got things to read. All kinds of stuff. You guys are giggling. Was there a funny comment again?
Oh, okay. I had no idea I was going to learn so much tonight. Like, this is crazy.
I learned so much about cheese. Everything.
I told you, man. Like I always get people with like the funny guy thing, and then people are like, "Oh, he's actually smart." Like, bringing him on.
It's perfect. It's so perfect. Okay, so with that, Matub, any final thoughts before we say goodnight to our audience?
I really enjoy the content that you guys put out, specifically because you are the ray of sunshine in the otherwise pessimistic landscape.
I love
Thanks,
it,
man. That means a lot. Yeah,
it does.
And I mean, we love your stuff. I mean, especially the work you do with Reporting is Eligible, which we haven't talked about a lot tonight, but that is, absolutely one of my favorite podcasts. You and Paul and JR and who I'm forgetting, Tyler Brook, although he's probably not getting the show anymore. Is that right?
So Tyler usually is only on when I can't be on. So when I'm in Kansas at my plant, I live in a house with sometimes it's 9 other people, sometimes it's no other people. Depends on who's in town for the night. And we have DSL. So if there's a lot, so if there's a lot of people, there's not enough bandwidth for me to record a podcast. And so
is the
those
house
are the
made out of cheese or
no? It's a 90s McMansion that someone like dropped in the middle of a field.
Oh, that's okay.
That is a very long and it is a very long and fun story for another day.
Oh, cool. That's very cool. Oh, hi, Tash.
But yeah, so Tyler does come on occasionally, but now with him moving away from the Vox Media stuff and doing, he might still make appearances. He's not dead. He's still in the group chat. So like,
he's not dead.
It's good.
And also, we're going to continue to plug his book forever because Brooke wrote a book. It's very fun to say.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's fun. All right, Maddie, any final thoughts before we bring her home?
No, just one more time, Matub. I really appreciate it, man. Love your stuff. It's really been just amazing talking to you and getting to know you better. So, and especially with how generous you were with your time tonight, as we are probably going into our longest one yet, I think here. So, dude, this is fantastic. So,
I told my wife, I was like, it's going to be a short one. Oops.
Yeah.
No, it's good. It's awesome. I love it.
This is your average reporting is eligible episode. So.
Also, it's going to be a short one. Also describes Aaron's act. So anyhow, friends, of course, you'll find links in our show description for everyone who mentioned, so please check it out. Also, we'd love to have a chance to interview you and shout you out if you're a subscriber and a football fan. Or even if you're not a football fan, we're inclusive. If you'd like to nominate someone to be a guest on our podcast, please let us know. Our DMs are open on all the social platforms. And folks, when you subscribe to our podcast, you help us to keep spreading the love in our community. And the best way to help this podcast grow is by sharing it with your friends and family.
That's right, Maddie, because we love you. We're so glad to know you and to be fans of you, and also have to be fans of the most story team in the NFL. I'm thinking about a comment that was just made. So sorry. The most storied team in the NFL. We appreciate your support, your subscriptions, and sharing our pod. And we look forward to seeing you next week on
Hey, we like your pod.
Football in general comes down to discipline and people owning their roles. And when you aren't disciplined, or